To show you how to apply to the Pacemaker Clinical Specialist role. It's a great role to break into medical device. My walkthrough can be used for really any medical device role. If you're just breaking in, the best keyword I recommend is associate. What I'm going to do today, you're probably laughing, you're going to show me how to apply a job. Matt, you're ridiculous. Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to find the job titles at different companies because the same role can have different titles, right? So you might be looking for a clinical specialist at Medtronic. Nothing is populating on another company's site, and it's because you're not using the right keyword or right title role. So I'm going to show you how to find the titles. I'm going to show you how to write a cover letter in about 1 to 2 minutes. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how to find the requisition ID so you could use that to network when you're reaching out to other colleagues to help boost your chances of getting this role. So what I like about the Pacemaker Clinical Specialist role, as I mentioned in my previous video, it's a great way to get into medical devices because it gives you a technical training and also a sales toolbox. The companies do a great job of training you, and this is a role that you could serve in 3-4 years, even longer, and advance in the ranks of the pacing clinical role. Or you could take your experience after a few years and go into another sales role or internal role because you have such a great knowledge working with customers, patients, and healthcare. So I'm going to walk through on how to apply to this role. I'm going to screen share so you see step by step what I do. So here we go. So yeah, we could Google how to find a medical device job, and we have all these sponsored based on our cookies. But the way I would do it is this. So first I would go to LinkedIn, and it's going to be my profile that you'll be seeing. So this is it. This is my beautiful profile. If you haven't seen it yet, follow it. Follow me on YouTube real quick. Let me show you my YouTube. Please subscribe. You can do it right here. I really appreciate that. So last week I did a video on the Pacemaker Clinical Specialist role. So I'm going to type that in and see what pops up. And this time I made sure to spell it correctly. But what I'm doing is I'm looking for the names of these titles in the company. So Clinical Specialist, CRHF, that's the acronym for Medtronic, which is going to be important. Cardiology, Rhythm, Heart Failure, Medtronic. So write that down. Clinical Specialist, CRHF, Medtronic. These are all Medtronic, so we're good. More Medtronic, perfect. Right here's a different company, Field Clinical Specialist, CRM, Cardiac Rhythm Management. So now we have Medtronic's title, we have Boston Scientific's title, and I'll give you a hint, Abbott, which is a third big company, uses Clinical Specialist for their title. So now we're going to go to the career sites and see what we find. So if you don't know how to get to Medtronic's site, you just go to Google, type in Medtronic careers. Some roles already populated. Interesting enough, specialty territory managed, CRM. So this would be in southern Los Angeles. I've been in this industry, so I know what this is. This is a specialty rep role for the micro leadless pacemaker. But today I'm looking for the clinical specialist roles, which I think is a great way to break in. So we go to careers, we're going to search jobs. Perfect. Clinical specialist. I gotta type correctly to make this work right. And let's see, I'm in California, so let's do California, Los Angeles specifically. Let's see what pops up. Senior Aortic Clinical Specialist, so that's not what we're after. That is a good role if you've been in the medical device industry for a while. It's a fast growing industry and really amazing. They're usually treating, I think, AAA, so aortic aneurysms. Vascular Clinical Specialist, that's not what I'm after. Diabetes, DBS is neuro. And a lot of these things I know from being in the industry, so I have connections in all these fields and I know the titles, but what we're after specifically is the Pacemaker Clinical Specialist role with Medtronic, which I do not see. So here's the specialty territory manager, which populated earlier, which is a sales rep role for the micro. California, Colorado, some other states, and even states without this law now post the salary. So for example, on this role, let's see if we can see the salary. Great, so they do a good job. So the salary is $45,000. That's low paying, but what they don't include is the compensation, your variable comp from sales and commission. So this role could be probably making, let's say, $150 to $250. So don't be confused by the salaries. You need to find that out when you talk to the HR. So I don't see any roles for Medtronic Clinical Specialist for pacing. So let's open it up to the United States. So here on the left, you see I'm going through, I don't see it, so let's type in CRHF to narrow it down. States, perfect. There we go. Flint, Michigan. Let's do Pittsburgh. I have friends in Pittsburgh. So clinical specialist, cardiac rhythm management, Pittsburgh. So this is great. This tells you the area that you'll be covering, a day in the life, technical support, operational support. If you haven't seen my video, it talks about this, doing the pacemaker clinic, covering implants, doing the educational to nurses, physicians in the hospital. Basic qualifications, high school degree, 6 years, associate's degree plus 4 years of work experience, bachelor's degree plus 2 years of work experience. I rarely see people coming in with a high school diploma. Usually those are people that have been in the medical device field or the cath lab for a long time and coming over. For the most part, the bigger companies, I would say, require a bachelor's degree, and that fluctuates depending on the year. But in general, recently, bachelor's degree is a minimum. And then 2 years of work experience. I came in right out of college. I did have some work experience in college, but I was able to share my story, sell my why, and took on an amazing role. So if you don't have 2 years of work experience, you would really need to push hard. You could go to one of the trade schools, you could go into B2B sales, you could have, let's see what it says, experience in healthcare. I do think there's a chance you could break in this role if you do a really good networking. Nice to have, prefer qualifications. I think that's just fluff in my opinion. Physical job requirements, that's HR speaking. Travel, usually these roles travel in a territory. I know, for example, for pacing, you cover a geography. I always covered a radius of about 60 to 90 miles. Some of the territories will cover, Hawaii and the West Coast, so you would have to be traveling in that case. And here you have a better sense. A min salary of 72,000, max of 116. Travel, no. And then this is not including the commission, right? So these roles usually have a smaller component of commission that's tied to the sales rep's quota. And for example, senior clinical specialist, let's look at this one, because this is usually the title after you've been promoted. This is vascular, so that's not what I want. Let's see if I see any for, I don't see any yet. So I don't see any of the promoted titles populating on the Medtronic site for pacing, but for example, this is senior aortic clinical specialist. So if you go scroll down a little bit, you'll see that this one requires bachelor's degree, 4 years of clinical health experience, or 2 years of sales and clinical experience. So if you start off a clinical specialist, in 2 years you could get promoted to senior, a couple more years you're principal, and with that comes an increase in salary and compensation. So you might see a senior or principal role posted, and sometimes you could come in as a clinical, so don't be too afraid to apply if it's a senior role. If you're a good candidate, they'll still bring you in at a lesser level, right? So if you're right out of college and you're applying to a senior clinical specialist for pacing, there's a chance they'll bring you in as associate or clinical to match your experience, and you're still in the medical device field and you'll get promoted in a couple years. Awesome. So we found a couple roles. Let's go to my next favorite company. I don't have any favorite companies. So we have Abbott, and I do like Boston. So this is Boston Scientific. What's unique about Boston Scientific is they call their clinical specialist roles field clinical specialists. Let's type that in and see what yep. So all their devices are supported by a field clinical specialist. So urology, EP in Austria. So this is a lot of the world. So let's see if we get anything in my hometown, Los Angeles. Awesome. So what is this? Neuromod. So this is neuro. This is EP. So this is adjacent to pacing. This is working with electrophysiologists doing ablation. But we are specifically after a pacemaker role. So let's type in CRM and see what populates there. So again, that's neuromodulation. All right, let's go. We have to go bigger. Let's go California and search. Let's do pacemaker. Let's do United States. Just make this wide open. And this is a good lesson, right? Your job might not be in Los Angeles, so if you want to break into medical devices, you might have to look in the United States or larger, get into the industry, and then after a while you could Awesome. So here we go. So this is El Paso, Texas, CRM, cardiac rhythm management. So that's the pacemaker role, senior. So this is a promoted role, but don't be afraid to apply. They're calling it hybrid, remote. Let's see the day in the life. Oh, this is neuromodulation. I made a mistake. Huh. I would have to do a better job to find the roles on Boston, but you have a good heads up there. And Abbott. So this is one of the big three in pacing: Abbott, Boston Scientific, Medtronic. You have Biotronik in the United States, which is the fourth company. The big three would be the ones that I've already looked. So this one, clinical specialist, cardiac rhythm management. We have a lot of roles, and I started my career in an Inland Empire covering Riverside. So let's look at this role and see what this one's about. Awesome. They make this a little bit easier than Medtronic's description, but you'll act as a clinical interface between the medical community and the business, sustain credible business relationships, provide engineering, sales, educational, and clinic support. Great. Develop leads and facilitates training, and you support the sales representative. This is what you're bringing, your background, and then like all the three companies reviewed, all of them are going to have 401k, retirement plans, healthcare, pension, all that fun stuff. Sorry, not pension. No one has pension anymore except for a few companies. So let's do a little mock application. Let's do this job, and this is exactly how I would do it. I'm going to highlight all this, and I'm going to use this to write my cover letter. I use ChatGPT. I always like to ask how it's doing because I appreciate the work it does. Can you a cover letter based on this job description? Awesome. So I just asked it to write a cover letter based on the job description. If you copy and paste this, I consider that plagiarism, but what this does is give you a good structure, the bones of what you need to write. And I would go in here and look at these paragraphs and change a lot of it, but now you have a structure, and in 30 seconds we have a really good letter. So I would say, hello, I'm writing to express my interest in the pacing clinical specialist role. You discuss your degree, your undergraduate, your years of experience, and you might not have any experience in medical device or work, so you would need to share why you want this role, right? So this is a good way to do it. So that's right there, there's your cover letter. This is the role we found, right? So now we have the role, we have the cover letter, and let's see something really important. So this one, you might have to log on to find what I'm after, but let's see if I could do Medtronic's. Awesome. So we're going to use Abbott as the example, but with Medtronic, Boston, Abbott, a lot of them have an ID or a requisition number, and this is really important because this is a unique number for the role, and we're going to use this when we're networking with people. So back to Abbott. For example, if we know the ID, or with Medtronic we found it, we have the cover letter, then we would go back to LinkedIn and do Abbott Pacemaker Clinical Specialist Inland Empire. Let's see if anything populates with that. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Perfect. We found exactly who we needed. So we have a list of people that work in medical device, and we're going to message all of them and connect with them who work at Abbott. And we're going to say, hello, my name is Matt Abrams. I'm applying to this role. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is, hey, I'm Matt Abrams. See you're having a lot of success at Abbott. Curious if you could connect on the phone for a few minutes, just to share your story. And at the end, you could follow up with a message saying, hey, I saw this really amazing role that I think I fit for. The requisition or the unique ID is this. Any chance you could put a referral in? And a lot of people would be interested in that. So if I talk to you on the phone and I say, hey, this person's really cool. Yeah, I would love to have you on the team. I can't guarantee you an interview or a job, but what I can do is you could use my employee ID as a referral. That's going to flag your resume and put you in a better position. If you are hired by my company, I receive a little spiff of $500 or $1,000, maybe more. I forget how much it is,
for referring you, and that that adds up if you get a couple referrals in a year. So a lot of people would be interested in talking to you on really that behalf. So message them. You write a message like, I don't know that message, but you just, like I said, you say, hey, I'm reaching out and want to hear the success you had at your company, a chance you have 5 minutes to share and connect. So we're wrapping it up. What we did today is we looked up specific roles. There's a ton of medical devices and you need to sort through it. So we talked about how searching on LinkedIn or watching my video on the Pacemaker Clinical Specialist role, you take that title, we plugged it into LinkedIn to find the titles at other companies. Awesome. So that's it. That's how you do it. It's not that easy, but it's, you need to put your foot forward and break in. I think this is one way to get in. Medical devices is an extremely fulfilling career. It can be daunting to break in. There's going to be a lot of rejection letters, and actually what there's more of is no responses. But if you want to be in medical device, you can be in medical device. I love the 9 years I've had at Medtronic, and I encourage everyone to find a way to get into this really fulfilling career. If you have any questions, reach out. If there's any roles at Medtronic or these companies that you're interested in, I have a huge network and I can connect you. And make sure you subscribe. I've said that a few times already, but stay tuned. We have a lot of exciting content coming out in the next couple weeks.